Welcome, everybody, or welcome back to the Pura Vida podcast. Thank you so much for being with me and my beautiful guest, Kathy Shafer, today. Before we get into her journey, I just want to mention that we are Pura Vida Wellness Studio. We're located right on Detroit Avenue, where Ernest Brewworks is, Burn in Detroit. We're right next to Ernest Brewworks, a local brewery here. And we offer many, many yoga classes. We offer meditation, healing, Reiki, sound healing, etc. And we would love to have you here in the studio sometime. It is our goal to make everything accessible here. So we have beautiful, affordable rates, and you can check those out on our website. I'll leave the link in the description. But before we dive into to introducing Kathy, I also want to mention she's taking our sound healing training, which is this weekend, and I'm so excited. She is actually doing the training on Zoom because she lives in Florida. So she's going to be tuning in from Zoom, living in Florida, and for our next sound healing training round, know that that's something you can do as well. But I digress. Let's move into your introduction, Kathy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited and I can't wait to take your sound bowl training.
Yes, me too. I am very excited as well. And yeah, I'm like, using this whole week to get everything together. And it's just been awesome diving into the back into the history, back into the science, etc. So yeah, it's gonna be a good training. But Kathy, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your background and where you are in your journey and how you got there.
How much time do we have?
Right? We have all day. No, just kidding.
Okay. Okay. Well, hi everybody. My name is Dr. Kathy and I'm the fun therapist. As Erica said, I now live in Jupiter, Florida, but I'm a Toledo native, which I'm really proud to say, meaning that I was born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. I went to high school at DeVilbiss High School, where I graduated in 1976. I was senior class president, and I'll tell you why later, why I'm telling you all this, or maybe I'll dive into it now. But I decided I needed to leave to Toledo to expand my journey. And I really wanted to be a psychotherapist and some form of healer in the field of addictions. And I went to the library because there were no computers back then and researched colleges in New York City because that's what my goal was. And so I set my goal on either NYU, Columbia, or the New School for Social Research because I really wanted to be the next rock star photographer. That was my first dream. And I got accepted to all three schools, but I picked NYU because they offered me the biggest scholarship and they offered me room and board, which is really important in New York City. So to make a long story short, I have my undergraduate and graduate degrees from NYU. I spent the 80s living in New York City, primarily working in the field of mental health and addictions. A team of professionals and myself created the first addiction treatment center called Stuyvesant Square. It was affiliated with Beth Israel Medical Center. And I stayed in Manhattan until 1988 when I saw, ooh, all the drugs are starting to show up in Florida. That's when crack cocaine came to the shores of Florida. And I said, okay, I'm going to go down there and learn more about drug and alcohol abuse. And that's when Miami Vice came along and the drug cartels and everything else. So I went to Barry University in Miami and got my PhD down there. And then I decided to come to West Palm Beach County, because that's when substance abuse treatment centers were starting to be created here. So I was on the ground floor with a lot of the really well known and well regarded treatment centers here. So I have my certification in addiction. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Um, I'm a certified EMDR and brain spotting therapist. And then as I was working on my PhD, I decided I wanted to really cross the New York City Marathon. I wanted to cross the finish line. And this is all leading up to something, that why I'm telling you this, Erica. So I decided to run the New York City Marathon while I was working on my PhD so that I could cross the finish line, finish my PhD, and do a dream, which I was told I would never be able to do because I have asthma. Asthma for
Mm.
21 Days is my first book. and I met a psychiatrist in New York City who created the American Institute for Mental Imagery because
How many books do you have?
thank you. I have two.
Okay.
I have two.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, but I have to shout out to Dr. Epstein. He was a psychiatrist, and he really taught me about mental imagery and the mind body approach to healing because I was so attached to the diagnosis of asthma. I kept believing what people kept telling me I couldn't do was like run a marathon. And I sat out of gym classes when I was at DeVilbiss and McKinley. That school is no longer there, but I was told I could never play like the other kids. So I always felt there was something wrong with me. So when I met Dr. Epstein in 1992, I he asked me a very important question when I met him because I was on my way to Israel. Another story, I was going with my dad to Israel to do the Jesus tour, and Dr. Epstein invited me to his office in Manhattan. So I come all the way to Florida, meet Dr. Epstein in New York, go back to New York to meet the psychiatrist, and he asked me if I wanted to live. And I was like, do I want to live? He said, yes, because asthma is about suffering. So what are you doing that's creating suffering in your life? And then the light went off. And oh my God. And then I went to Israel. I met his teacher. Her name was Colette. She taught me all about mental imagery and the mind body approach to healing. And that set my journey to really think about Western medicine is not where it's at. So then I come back to Florida, run the New York City Marathon, 3 times after getting hit by a drunk driver. And that's a whole nother story, but that's the creator of my fun program because when I got hit by the drunk driver, they told me that I would never walk or run again because of my injuries and because of my back pain that I had. So after I healed from the injuries from the drunk driver, my leg was broken in 3 places, etc. Then they told me I needed back surgery. I said, back surgery? So I went to get a second opinion, and the doctor said, you don't need back surgery. You need to go to yoga. I go, yoga? I can't even bend over. I'm in so much pain. I can't bend over. And at that time here in Florida, there was only one yoga studio, and it was the Bikram yoga, which is the hot yoga for those of who don't know about it. But Bikram is like this intense hot yoga, and there's 26 poses, and you have to do them in a certain way, and there's no diversion. And the guy who ran that studio was very strict. And I just told him, I said, look, I can barely walk. I'm just going to sit in the back of the room and sweat while you do all this stuff with other people. So he said that was okay. And then one day there's a pose where you're on your knees and you inhale your arms up and you bend over and go down. And my back went, just popped right into place. And I said,
Wow.
oh my gosh, what's going on with this yoga? So that's what led me on my yoga journey. And then I became a yoga therapist. And I am now a certified yoga therapist with IAYT. And then so that's what led me to yoga. Um, is there something you want to ask me? I know I'm kind of because I'm so excited to be here and talk.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Your journey is very beautiful so far. I can't believe that moment. I want to ask you more about that moment where your back just popped back into alignment. I mean, did you feel it? Like, I mean,
Yes.
obviously you felt it. What was the sensation? And yeah, how did that happen? I mean, was it in the middle of class? Was it in the beginning of class? Was it at the end?
Well,
Uh,
whenever they do that one position where you're on your knees and you inhale your arms up and then you bend, I don't know if that's the 10th exercise or the 10th pose, but when the minute that I laid forward, my lower back just went, I could feel it just go right back like I had a major adjustment right there.
wow,
Yeah. And
that's
so
amazing.
and then my back pain went away and I thought, okay, I don't need surgery anymore, but I do need to explore what yoga's.
Yoga. Yeah, and the path to yoga is that's only the beginning, I'm sure, of your you know, journey and the path to yoga. I mean, you find it some way and it doesn't matter how any of us find it, but once we find it, something pops into alignment, whether it's your back or your mind or your heart. Usually a lot of things come into alignment once you find yoga. Um,
And that's what I decided to do my yoga training, my YTT, my 200.
yeah.
But at that time, again, this yoga stuff wasn't that popular. And what attracted me was this program called Yoga Fit, created by
Mm,
Beth Shaw, because it was like a way to integrate it into the gyms. So it was like an exercise, a physical exercise. Okay, that appealed to me at the time because I don't know, I wasn't into all the woo-woo spiritual and chanting and all the
right.
Patanjali yoga and the sutras and all that stuff. That was like, I don't know about that stuff. So then
Yeah.
when I did my YTT, I was like, oh, I have to learn this woo-woo stuff. So then I got cancer in
Oh, wow.
stage 3 breast cancer. And so during that journey, some yoga people got together. Amy Weintraub, who wrote the book Yoga for Depression, she got a lot of her yoga people together and they created a fund for me to go to India. And that's when I was introduced. And that was my second time in India. I've been there 3 times. But that's when I was introduced to Panchakarma, where it's a cleanse that you do for 21 days. It's intense vegetarian diet, juicing, massages, abhyanga, the oils, and everything else. And then we did yoga nidra every day. And I'm like, oh my God, what's this yoga nidra? It doesn't even involve any of the yoga poses. And that just felt so transformative to me. So I come back to the United States, started researching teacher trainings for yoga nidra. And then there was a conference at Kripalu in Massachusetts. And it was the International Association of Yoga Therapists first and only since yoga therapy, I'm sorry, yoga nidra conference. And who was there were all the top 5 schools in yoga nidra. One of them was Kamini Desai. Dr. Kamini Desai's father was what was his name? The Kripalu yogi that started Kripalu. I can't think of his name right now, but when he left, Amrit Desai, her father, stepped in. So he was one of the original gurus from India that was the guru at Kripalu. Kamini grew up in the ashram at Kripalu. It since
Mm.
has disbanded the ashram and it's now a yoga conference center of training. But Kamini and I met during COVID because she offered her yoga nidra training online and we weren't required to do something residential because it was COVID. So I jumped in. Long story short, I love Kamini's approach just because of the lineage with her father back to India. And also, she wrote the foreword to my second book, Falling Awake. And I just did a yoga therapy training with her at the new Amrit ashram down here in Florida. So I know I'm kind of
So
stumbling around here, but
no, yeah, it's you have a lot to share, and I'm so happy that there's a platform for you to share it on. Yeah, so your book so that's your book, Falling Awake.
yes.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about that and then your other book as well? But I really like the idea of falling awake.
Yes. So Falling Awake came from thinking about what happens when people really start exploring what they're not talking about and what's stored up here in their brain. And the title Falling Awake came from one day when I was leading a yoga nidra, where I just said to the people that were taking my yoga class, I said, you may find yourself nodding out here and falling asleep. But instead of thinking to yourself that you're falling asleep, maybe you're falling awake. Maybe you're allowing the brain to wake up in realms and forms that it might not otherwise be able to do when you're in your conscious waking mind. Because that's when the critical brain comes in and all the defense mechanisms come in that say, oh my God, why am I thinking that? That's stupid. That's not good enough. Or I should be doing this, something else. Why am I laying down this yoga class? I could be doing, running a marathon right now. And then when you recline, and you allow all the things to come up that you don't normally talk about and then just let them go, that's when transformation, that's when falling awake occurs. And then I went, I think EMDR, talk therapy, brain spotting all access the brain in similar ways that yoga nidra does, but in very different ways. And what I found in the spiritual communities, whether it's yoga nidra or just in yoga in general, but even in the professional realms like EMDR, brain spotting, people can get very, um, I don't want to say it, but just very close minded. Like you only do cognitive behavioral therapy, you
Yeah.
only do EMDR, you only do yoga nidra if you're part of this lineage, you only do brain spotting if you've been trained by this person. And I said, I'm going to write a book that it educates the reader about what these things are, and then they can decide which one they might like to explore further on their own. And I provided the resources to do so. So that's why I got trained in all of them, because I'm like, there's not one way for healing.
No.
People will fall awake during a yoga nidra class, or it may happen when they're standing in a warrior pose and they all of a sudden have this aha moment, or it could be while they're talking to a therapist, or when you're on a podcast talking to Erica. There could, what could happen. or during a sound bath,
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
which is my next step.
Yeah. During a sound bath, that I would say that has to be when I fell awake, for to use your term. I love that term so much. Um,
That's it.
Beautiful title. And thank you so much for writing that book. That's going to be of service of so many people, and I'm sure it already has. And wow, that's amazing. I'm so happy that you're providing people, the education to then choose. You're empowering people, and that's what I love to do. And I usually attract people who also love to do that. And it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for writing that book. I'm definitely going to have to order that book. I'm in EMDR training, or not training, EMDR therapy right now, trauma recovery therapy, and
Oh,
it
okay.
has changed my life tremendously. I can't even explain to you how much has rewired in my brain. And I mean, you're trained in it all, so you know exactly what I'm saying. But before EMDR, sound therapy is what really, really, I would say that's how I fell awake. The first time I laid down for a sound bath, that was the first time I felt safe in my body, number one, safe
Yep.
enough in my body, and to then be aware of my thoughts and watch them. And yeah, it was a beautiful moment. And I'm a musician too, so of course their sound healing is exactly what led me into my journey into falling awake. And yeah, so it's a beautiful process. I can't wait for our training this weekend. But I want to go back to something that you very first said in the beginning of our conversation. You said something about well, two things. I'm really curious about your journey, the 21-day journey in India.
Okay.
And then also the you said something about brain imaging, something like that.
Mental imagery,
Mental imagery.
or brain spotting. Which one?
Yeah, brain mental imagery.
Okay. Which one? Which
Yeah,
one?
go ahead and talk about the mental imagery. Like what was your experience with that? What came up for you, etc.
Okay. Well, we're always thinking in pictures. So when we get upset about something, whether we recognize it or not, and if you watch people's eyes when they're upset and you ask them what's upsetting them, their eyes are going to automatically go somewhere, which means they're finding the brain spot where the information is stored at the basement of the brain, and it's bypassing the critical mind, the cortical mind, all the defense mechanisms, and then they're accessing what has been stored back here about why they're upset. And if you just say, you seem like you're finding something up there. Tell me what you're seeing. I see that argument I had with my mother. And what emotions are you feeling right now? I'm feeling very upset. Well, what are you noticing in your body? I'm noticing that my stomach's getting really tight. And if you could describe the tightness in your body, how would you describe it? It feels like it's like a rope. It's all tied up. And then I'd say, okay, and what if we could untie that rope? So this is what I do with my clients. I say, what if we could untie, what would it take to untie the rope? And so if we just ask clients to think of the images that they're thinking about when they're upset, that's one way to do mental imagery. The other is when I was taught mental imagery, when I did the asthma free book, this is going to make you laugh. But when I learned it from Dr. Epstein, he said, oh, it's in his book, Healing Visualizations. The title of the imagery exercise to heal yourself from asthma is called The Exorcist. Now, I might be dating myself here, but I think most of us know about the movie called The Exorcist.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, I have to become like Linda Blair and spin my head and
Oh my God.
to heal myself from asthma. And he said, no, but we have to exorcise the demons inside of yourself that are creating your suffering. So,
Mm.
so mental imagery is always paying attention to the words that clients use to describe what's going on with them or the diagnosis that they're coming to you with. And usually when clients come to me, I'll say, like I had a young woman come to me yesterday. She's in high school, and as typical, there was a lot of drama with the young girls at school doing their catty thing with each other. And then all of a sudden she looked away and her face started lighting up. I said, what are you thinking about? She said, I'm thinking about my boyfriend. I said, well, keep your eyes there and tell me what's making your face feel happy right now. And she said, well, I know that he's on my side. He's got my back. He treats me nice. And I said, what do you notice in your body? And she said, "Oh my God, I feel so much calmer." I said, "Okay, close your eyes and notice that calm place inside your body. And then, when you're ready, breathe out and open your eyes. Tell me how you feel." She goes, "I feel happy." I said, "Guess what?" She goes, "What?" I said, "We just found your happy place." And
Yes.
everybody knows what the happy place is, right?
Oh, yeah.
But to answer your question, mental imagery is just thinking in images, thinking about what's upsetting you in image, because the stories we tell ourselves is what makes us sick. And then we
Hmm.
become attached to the story or the beliefs about ourselves, about something that happened in the past. You, being a client of EMDR, know that the past is somehow always present. But what we have to really recognize is the past is over. That can't happen anymore. That is not who we are. Who we are is in the present moment. And mental imagery, or things like EMDR, brain spotting, yoga nidra, bring you to this place in the present, because here is where healing happens, not in the past, or not the stories we're making up about the future. Staying in the present with what's going on in our life now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for giving us that. I actually do that all the time in therapy. I guess I just didn't know what it was called.
See?
But yeah, we absolutely do it almost every time. I literally just came from my therapy appointment to this podcast and we did it right before this. Um, so that's really cool. Mental imagery. I love learning like the science and everything behind it.
Yeah, that's the important thing. Is, there's a lot of practitioners out there, and that's why I was attracted to your sound bowl training. It, first of all, it was online. I'm going, yes, like it's virtual, but I want to be around people who embrace the science. So it's
Hmm.
not just going to a place where somebody's, ringing bowls,
Right.
or using the rain stick, or, a therapist who just talks about mental or reads a script for yoga nidra. It's really important that you understand the science behind these really spiritual practices. I mean, Francine Shapiro, who created EMDR, was even into mysticism herself,
Hmm.
and so is David Grand, the guy who created brain spotting. They're bringing in the science from Eastern and Western and bringing it together for the healing to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, so go ahead and tell us about your 21-day journey. So you had breast cancer and are you cancer free?
I,
Yes. Awesome.
yeah.
And so yeah, tell us about that. That really lit up my brain.
Okay. Okay. Well, my first trip to India, let's go back to that first, was when I was doing my 500 hour, when I went on for my 500 hours. And then I went to Mysore, India to do that. And on the way back, went through Goa, and really, really just loved the Ayurveda approach to healing too, which we don't hear too much about because that's another yoga thing, But Ayurveda approach to healing is another science about eating well, about understanding what your dosha is, what your frequency is, getting back to the bowls, what your frequency is, and what diets, exercise, nutrition, what healing modalities will be helpful to you because of your vibration. Going back to Ayurveda. So that's what I learned when I went to India is my dosha is called Pitta, which is ruled by fire. And so, as you can probably tell, I'm talking 90 miles an hour. So I'm driven and I like to do things. I'm very action oriented. I like to make things happen. But sometimes that energy doesn't go well with other types who are more laid back. I mean, I have clients say, "Gosh, Dr. Shafer, you're speaking really fast." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I just slow down, talk slower, may not so intense with my tone of voice for the people that need to really hear me in that realm. And it's also important for me not to talk really fast for the Vata types, which are based on anxiety, because they're like they can't stand ceiling fans. They're like doing 9 things at the same time. And those types also need to learn how to slow down. So what I learned in India was my type, which is ruled by fire, that I really need to take time for self-care. Otherwise, my little fire of fizz is gonna just fizzle out. And
Hmm.
that's when I was forced to do the yoga nidra, because I was forced to lay down every day and do a 90-minute yoga nidra, which we don't hear about here in the West, but it was for 90 minutes every day. And that's when I really embraced the healing that takes place when we rest and reset our nervous system.
Mm.
There's a lot going on when we recline. And also, it was really helpful for me just to spend some time alone over there with other cancer survivors about their cancer journey, what they were told about cancer, what we embraced and took in about our healing journey, what was true for us, what was not true for us. And then after I left that place, that's when I did another little trip around India and went over to where Ayurveda started and learned more about the healing modalities that are offered through yoga. But yeah, the different types of massage you get, the diets, the everyday yoga classes that they offered. It was very gentle yoga, obviously for us cancer people at the time.
Hmm.
So, and then the yoga nidra, and that was led by a friend of mine who who has a program called the Yoga of Recovery, which you might like.
Yeah.
Her name is Durga Leela. She wrote the book called The Yoga of Recovery. She offers retreats every year in January in,
In India?
in the south of India for 21 days, the traditional Panchakarma.
Oh, wow.
And I've done that with her too. So she leads those retreats every year.
I'd
And
be very
yeah,
interested.
yeah, I'll tell you about that. And if you forget, just ask me over the weekend when I'm with you, and I'll tell you to look her up. She wrote the
Yep,
book Yoga of Recovery. She's my friend. You can tell her that I suggested that you look her up.
I will.
And then I'm gonna be offering, I'll just say this for a minute, and then we'll talk about other things. Kamini Desai, the woman who wrote the forward to my book, and her father
Hmm.
is one of the founders of Kripalu. Her and I are gonna organize a retreat in Iceland in March of 2026. And it's
Oh, wow.
gonna be like a 9-day experiential journey, and 3 days will be with her, where she's gonna teach whoever comes. It's not a teacher training. It's
Hmm.
anybody who wants to come experience Iceland and the Northern Lights and have access to Kamini, to really get the understand the healing and the science behind Yoga Nidra.
Wow, that sounds, I want to go to both. I need all the resources in the world to do all the things I want to do.
Imagine,
Um,
there you go. And remember, mental imagery. Imagine all the money coming your way. Your phone's ringing,
yes.
or people are depositing money in your bank accounts. You're going to win the lottery.
Yes, here we go. I'm watching it fall right into my brain.
Put the
Uh,
lottery ticket right there on your screen so you see it.
yep, for sure. Raise my vibration,
That's
right?
exactly right. Yep.
Yep. Oh
Yep.
my gosh. Wow. Well, you are a very powerful woman. You're very amazing. You have an amazing journey that, I mean, you have probably one of the biggest journeys that I've ever talked to somebody with. Like you
Thank
have
you.
done so much.
Yes.
Wow. Like that's amazing. And um
Yeah, I tell people I was diagnosed with asthma when I was 15 months old. Then I got hit by a drunk driver in 1994 and was told I would never walk or run again. And then I got diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in 2014. I always say, okay, has my education, have I learned enough about healing? What else am
yep.
I supposed to learn? Or, you
Right.
suffer back pain? It's like,
9 lives. You have 9 lives. Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, you're gonna be, I mean, yeah, you're gonna be so happy learning all about sound and frequency because you already have such an amazing background. So do you have any like experience with sound bowls? Do you have any experience with music? And or yeah.
well, I have a whole collection of sound bowls in my yoga studio. I have a small yoga studio on the other side of this wall where I'm
Uh,
at right. And I bought them because I just think the sound bowls are so incredible. And but I want to use them in the right way. I even have one that I've never used yet. It's called the healer's bowl. It's behind that. It's one with a handle on it. And you
oh
go,
yeah. Yes, I love those. Mine broke.
oh no.
I know.
Oh
It's
no.
okay though.
Yeah. Plus I have a gong. Huge gong.
Oh my God, awesome. Well, we're gonna learn the bowls, the gong, we're gonna learn it all. Um, well, that's amazing. So you really are kind of like a beginner then.
I mean, I've been to many sound bowl healing sessions, and I used to invite in yoga teachers here who have that training so that I could say, if you want a sound bowl healing with yoga nidra, here's so and so that's going to come in. And then I thought, and they're playing all my bowls. And
Yeah.
itself, I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, you could play your own bowls.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I do a form of yoga nidra while playing the bowls, and it's amazing. It's, like there's nothing like the mixture of modalities, which you're very familiar with, having a big mixture, it's so powerful. It's so very powerful. I mean, one modality itself is powerful, and then the sound just kind of amplifies it, like literally, no pun
Yes.
intended. And yeah, so, but
And
yeah,
and on that note, which maybe you'll talk about over the weekend when you do your training, like there's a yoga nidra that I offer twice a month at my office online and on Zoom. There's one person who does not like those sound bowls. She does not
mm,
at all. So I haven't done it with the classes I've been doing twice a month here because
mm-hmm,
there's one person that doesn't like it, and that's okay. The reason I'm putting
mm-hmm,
it up is that we have sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. We have five senses that offer us information about our healing. And if the sound bowls aren't for her, that's fine.
absolutely.
But now what I'm doing, or what I want to do, is I want to offer privates using the sound bowls. And
Mm-hmm.
there's one I'm offering on a Friday night in about 2 weeks. After I do your training, I'm like, okay, here's Dr. Shafer's debut, offering the sound bowls in her yoga nidra class. So
Heck yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome. Yep, I love it. And yeah, it's not for everybody. Everybody has their own way into healing, and that's the beauty of life in general is all that variety. So
right.
it's good. So how did you like specifically find my training? What intrigued you
Oh,
about it? And like well, you kind of mentioned a little bit about what intrigued you about it because we're going to go into the science, but how did you find it? And like, I mean, it's definitely going to complement your work. I mean, my gosh, you can bring it into a million and one different things. You can bring it into your therapy sessions. You can bring it into yoga nidra. You can, like you said, do private sessions. So you have so many opportunities.
okay. Well, the reason I chose your training is several reasons. Number one, you offered it online. And I think I've been to your yoga studio before because I'm on your like listserv. So I keep getting all your emails about what you're doing there. So because my mom was still alive, she died 2 years ago. The
Mm,
anniversary of her death was on Good Friday. But I was up in Toledo a lot going to see my mom. And plus I'm really close to my high school friends that are still there. So I would go frequent yoga studios when I was there. So I think I've been to your yoga studio while I was there one of my times up there. And then when you offered the training there, my other agenda in terms of attending your training is I have created a fundraiser for my school, for Developers High School. Developers High School, since I left there, and my all the alumni that used to go there, the school is now in a very poor neighborhood, and they've cut all the sports activities there, all of the mental health services, because of cuts in funding for public education.
hmm.
And when I called the principal there to offer a yoga class when I was in town one time, I said, "Have you ever heard from any of the alumni?" And he said, "No." I said, "Do you guys have any yoga mats there?" Nope. And so what's happening now, I was able to raise $20,000 with my alumni, and there's
Wow.
and a calm room is going to be created at the high school. Calm stands for curious about living mindfully. And
Oh my gosh, that's
so,
awesome.
yeah, so the students, because that's where I had my most wonderful experience was in high school. So the students, when they're really feeling stressed out or something's happening at home and they have nobody to talk to, they have a room that they can go to practice yoga, maybe do a sound bowl, do something, play with some fidgets. They want me to come there and do stuff with them, and I keep reminding them. I said I'd love to, but I'm in Florida. So
Yeah.
so so what I wanted to do after I complete your training is I want to tell the principal about you and your studio, and maybe you can go in and maybe do a sound bowl with the students sometimes. I'm sure that would be really attractive,
Yes.
you know,
That would
rather than hearing from a therapist, so to speak,
mm-hmm.
and you're younger than me. So that also goes well with the students too. Who's this old person from 1976 coming in here? So anyway, I want to do something with you in your studio for my school, my
I
high.
would absolutely love to. Yep, that'd be amazing. I've done a few things at high schools, where they come in either on field day. I mean, they've had me come in on field day or,
Oh, okay.
yeah, or just come in and do a yoga and sound session. So I loved it. I absolutely love doing that. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this calm room. Wow, yes, please connect us. And yes, I hope that that transpires. Um, yeah, so speaking of acronyms, you called yourself the fun therapist. Why is that?
Oh, thank you for asking. Well, the Fun Therapist is the fun program that I created after I got hit by that drunk driver in 1994 when they told me I would never walk or run again. I was laying in the trauma center at St. Mary's Hospital after they trauma hocked me there. And then I realized, as you know, from Bill Wilson and his recovery in the 12-step programs, it took him about 20 detoxes before he finally got sober. And I remember laying there. My father was a raging alcoholic who's now deceased, but he was sober when he died. He was sober like 50 years. So he was in the program for a long time. That's how I know about it because he used to drag me to AA meetings when I was 8. But when I was laying there in the trauma center, looking out the window, I tell people that's when I had my Bill Wilson moment. I was like, okay, I can either lay here and feel sorry for myself because I'm never going to run a marathon. I'm not going to be able to walk and get across the stage and get my PhD. My boyfriend at the time was cheating on me. There was all kinds of stuff going on in my life. So I can sit here and keep playing this story, or I can say, okay, here's another opportunity for me to turn what's happened to me around and get out of here and go run that marathon and go on with my life. And that's when I wrote down the word fun. And so I own the trademark to fun, and fun stands for focus, undo, now what? Focus on everything you're thinking in every moment. Every moment. If you're not having a fun thought, what are you thinking about? Undo the thoughts and beliefs that you're attached to, which becomes stories. So you have to undo the story that you're telling yourself about your life that's creating suffering. And then end, now that you know the story that needs to change, now what are you going to do about it? What action are you going to take? And then I created an acronym, DEAD, which is based on the four most popular beliefs that keep people stuck all the time. It's denial, expectation, analysis, and doubt. Denial
Hmm.
denial has its root in blame. Expectation is making up stories about the future or creating a standard for yourself. Expectations are resentments under construction. I did not create that quote. That's a quote by Anne Lamott, who herself is in recovery. She hangs out with Brene Brown and all those famous authors. And analysis, a teenager came up with that one. It's because, we're either looking in the phone, looking up stuff on Facebook, we're analyzing everything it says to us, see what the social media says, see what Google has
Yep.
to say, trying to find our answer from somebody else other than ourselves, or doubt going into the past. So again, you're either going to stop pointing your finger and blaming everybody else, stop making up stories about the future, get out of the computer and stop analyzing everything, or get out of the past. Those four things spell dead. So if you want to choose life, you have to start thinking about what's fun in your life and get out of your head and dismantle all those members that I call the committee. They keep telling yourself you shouldn't, you can't, um, you're not good enough. Who are you to write this book? Who are you to talk to this person on a podcast? Who are you to do sound bowls? What makes you think you're going to be able to do it right? Get out of your head about all this and say to yourself, why not me?
Hmm.
Why not me? Why can't I be the next best-selling author? Why can't I be a sound bowl healer myself too? So it's challenging all those stories that we tell ourselves about that. And I integrated that with EMDR, brain spotting, and yoga nidra. Because again, as you know, when you do EMDR, it's okay, what belief are you holding? Notice what you're feeling in your body. Okay, we got to get rid of that. Let's get rid of that.
Hmm.
Same with brain spotting. Find the spot that's holding the secret to what is the BS you're telling yourself. And yoga nidra, lay back, notice what's coming up. And what's cool about yoga nidra, which is why teenagers like it, all you have to do lay down and you don't have to talk or move. And all this stuff happens.
Yep.
Like with the sound balls, all you do is lay back and go, wow, look at all this stuff that's happening. And I don't even have to talk to anybody. I'm just
Yep.
the frequency in my body.
Yep. Yeah, it's wild. It's really wild how it works. And that is the best. I mean, we always say healing happens when you're resting, and the most healing happens when you're sleeping. So it's like, and yet, like, a lot of us have tried so hard to heal, which is very relevant as well. However, the healing actually happens when you're trying, when you're not trying,
Right.
and you're just lying there and letting it happen,
Yep.
allowing it. I always say in yoga, allow your emotions to happen. Don't force, don't tug, don't yank yourself into a posture. And yeah, it's the same thing with healing. It could really be applied to anything in life, honestly. But well, that's amazing. So powerful, so powerful, everything you've done. Can you bring both copies of your books up here for us to see? And just in case if anyone, I'm sure people in my audience are interested, can you buy these off of Amazon?
Yes, they're both available on Amazon. And
Do
then
you have a website?
I do.
Can you
It's
buy?
limitlesspotentials.com or funtherapist.com.
Okay,
And the links on how to order my book are there, or my books, I should say.
awesome.
Okay.
Yep. So
Or that I'd be able to say my books, plural.
I know you are awesome. Keep on going. Yeah, this is awesome.
And
So,
and I forgot to tell you that it just came to me. Swami Kripalu is
oh
the guy,
yeah, Swami Kripalu.
he's the one who created the Kripalu Center for in Massachusetts. Swami Kripalu said, breathe, relax, feel, watch, allow. Those are the things that we need to do in yoga to really transform our healing. Breathe, relax, feel, watch, allow. Just embracing those 5 words into your life can really create a transformative shift.
It really can. It's crazy. Like all these things are so simple and you can't really grasp them until you have practiced them for years. And unfortunately, there is no shortcut to healing. Like there really isn't. It's when you start to grasp that sense of healing, I mean, you've gone through it at that point once you've started to grasp your sense of healing. And yeah, like you said, just embracing those 5 words, it sounds so simple, but it is so hard. So I invite you to have grace upon yourself as you're healing and working through things in your life. Have that grace upon yourself. Keep yourself, don't force it. Just allow the, like it said, allow the healing to happen. Maybe embrace that word first. I don't know, but yeah, I just feel so compelled to say that too because it's just important to know that wherever you are in your journey, it's okay. And
And as a last resort, we always have our breath.
absolutely.
All you have to do is just what Dr. Epstein taught me is the exhale out is the most important one. So when you find yourself really upset, just breathe out through your mouth slowly, as you know, Shatuli breath, like you're breathing through a straw. And then take shorter inhales through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth like you're blowing through a straw. And breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw. Relax your shoulders, relax your elbows, relax your jaw as you continue breathing. And if you'd like, you can even, as you next time you inhale the word let, and then exhale the word go. And just notice how your breath slows down and your body relaxes even more when you inhale the words let and exhale the word go. And what's really cool about these breathing practices is you can't be in your head conjuring up all these stories and focus on your breathing at the same time.
Mm-mm.
That's what you have to choose what you want to do. Are you going to be in the present and calm your brain and your body down? Or are you going to continue to get all revved up about
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, thank you for that breathing practice. I feel so calm now. I'm like, oh man, I need to take a nap. But
Right.
I I love the let go part because that exactly deals with frequency. The words that we speak to ourselves are vibrating, our vocal cords vibrating at a certain frequency, and the words let and go in the English language, and which is a whole nother rabbit hole to go down all the other languages. But in the English language, it's, it signals something to our brain. I mean, they've literally done these functional MRIs where it's like saying the words let go, rather you're saying them out loud or in your mind, it lights up a certain part of your brain and it's like, okay, let go. And it brings you back into a state of equanimity, or no, what is the word I'm thinking of? Oh my gosh.
Balance,
Yeah, balance. What is that word for balance?
neutral.
Yes, neutral.
Uh,
The like the scientific word.
you're,
Homeostasis.
oh, there you go.
Yeah, brings you back to homeostasis. And yeah, so but yeah, that's a whole nother rabbit hole as well. And but yes, thank you for that technique. And I invite you to use that technique today, whoever's listening, and just see how you feel. See
And
what happens.
when all else fails, just remember, exhale first, longer exhales out, shorter inhales in, because the intense inhales is what creates panic attacks. That's what alerts the brain that that is the fight, flight, or freeze response needs to happen. And when you're not in a dangerous situation, just say, okay, I need to calm my breathing down and inhale, let, exhale, go. Very simple, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, it really works wonders.
Yeah.
I'm going back into that state just by thinking about it. But yeah, it really does work wonders. And Kathy, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and all of your experience. And thank you for going down this path and for serving others through your own journey. And I want to make sure that we have everything before we get off here. So I want to make sure that we have every way that people can get in contact with you, etc. So are you out on social media? Are you where can people find you? And you did mention your website, maybe just mention it again, and I will have the links all down in the show notes.
Okay. Now I am social media retarded, I do admit, but I do have social media out there. I am on Facebook, and if you just spell my name, Kathy Shafer, how it's spelled right there, you'll find me on Facebook. Limitlesspotentials.com is my website. You should also be able to find me if you just plug in funtherapist.com. If you want to email me, my email address is Kathy, Kathy, at DRSHAFER, my last name.org. So it's Kathy at drschafer.org. If you'd like to really have a personal approach, my office number is 561 799 6789. And Erica, I think you and I need to do a workshop in Toledo at my high school. That's what I think needs to happen, or somewhere.
Yes, please come
Maybe
up. And
I'm
I would love to come down and do a workshop in Florida. I go to Florida every year. My grandma goes down there and anyway, so let's do it.
where's your grandma live?
Ruskin.
Where's that?
So which is right probably like an hour below Tampa.
Oh, you're over on the West Coast.
Yes, but I can easily
Come over.
transfer because I drive. I usually drive.
You can come over to
I'm
us.
kind of a traveler, so I stop and
I'm trying to
sometimes
work.
I do fly, but most of the time I drive.
If you can help me, and this is no pressure on you because I'm looking into the local libraries there. I'm trying to bring brain spotting to Toledo in October this fall,
I
and
can absolutely help.
because I need a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, a place that has Wi-Fi and all that stuff for PowerPoints. So
Yeah, we can help. I'm excited. Oh man, so exciting. And
okay,
yes, let's do a workshop at your high school
get
and
me
one in
down
Florida
here.
too. We can have a
It's
sound bath
freezing
in Florida. You
when
can
it's
do
freezing
sound
for you.
baths.
When it's freezing for you up there, you come down here.
Oh, yes. That's exactly. Yeah. I
Say
mean,
it's a rare opportunity with Erica from Pura Vida in Toledo, Ohio, is visiting us in Jupiter, Florida.
yep. Yep. And yep, we can jam out together and oh man, I'm excited.
Cool.
So
Thank you so much for having me as a guest. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, for those of you listening, thank you for listening again. I am Erica, your host of the Pure Vita podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to Kathy's story. Again, if you want to connect with her, all the links will be down in the show notes below. And have an amazing day, whatever day it is for you. Namaste.
Namaste.